This is Business Talk, your business, your success. Sponsored by Take Action Business Coaching. The opinions expressed are those of the participants and may not be the views of the staff, advertisers, and owners of the station. Advice given is not intended to replace that of your business advisor. Now, let's get down to talking about your business, your success. This is Business Talk.
Well, good afternoon, Peg.
Good afternoon.
And this is Pete McDowell and
Peg Burley.
And we're here to talk about your business and your success.
Have a lot of great information to go through today.
We do. We're going to talk a bit about leadership, and we'll get into that in a moment.
Well, and then the other thing, Pete, what was it? There's leadership, but it was, what is it? The phrases. Oh, I like this. Phrases smart people refuse to use in conversations.
Yes. We tie this into leadership because you're always leading.
Exactly.
If you own a business or you're a manager in a company, people are always looking to you for leadership.
So we're going to go through that. And then to your point, the leaderships of daily habits.
Yes.
For leaders.
Yes,
I like that.
Yes. So good afternoon, everybody. Hope you're having a great afternoon in April. And we have a couple of good news things. So just unusual stuff here that we look at the newspaper and try to keep tabs on what things are going on. And the stock market continues to do fairly well. It's only up 5% this year versus was a little bit higher. We've had a little bit of a setback, but that's okay. It's still growing. And one thing that's happening is that the markets outside the U.S. are starting to pick up. So European markets and some of the emerging markets are up even higher than we are. ETFs for the all-country index is up 13% for emerging markets, and all-country is up 8% versus the U.S. of 5%.
So things are looking good.
The rest of the world is starting to wake up a little bit too, which we've seen with some of our businesses that are involved in metal recycling and some of the other heavy industries, that steel and copper and a few other things. Those prices are starting to come up with, which indicates future inflation, which could be bad if it's too high, but it also means that the economy is recovering, get better.
And we do get asked that a lot, is making sure that, how's the economy doing, and because obviously spending is affected by that. So good news, Pete.
Sure.
Good news.
It's good news. And, we had this healthcare thing in the last couple of weeks where it didn't get voted on, this and that. But the stock market was only down like 0.3%. So, it really didn't cause much of a blip. So they'll figure it out eventually, and we'll just carry on.
Okay. Sounds good.
Good news.
Sounds good. Okay. Good news, Pete. Are we ready to dive in?
Yes, your business coach. Now, for those of you that are just listening for the first time, business coaches, we work with a variety of companies. We do some executive coaching with large companies, multinational companies. And then we also do what we call business coaching with probably 2/3 of our business is business coaching per se. And it's helping to grow the entire business and also helping the business owner to work the kind of work-life balance that he or she really need, and then help their employees succeed, and then hopefully their customers do really well. So we work with individual businesses where we grow the entire thing. And
we have 4 of us. We have Pete and I have started this about 13 years ago, and now we have Angie Haynes, and Michelle Cacasola.
Yep, you love to say Michelle Calcasola.
I do love saying that name. It's a beautiful name.
It's musical.
It's a wonderful name. Yes. All right, so let's dive in.
Get started here. Let's start with 10 phrases. You want to start with the phrases or the habits? Let's start with the habits.
Okay.
How's that sound? So if you guys are listening out there, now if you're home, you could write these down if you like, or you can just start with a list.
Right. And I was going to say that we are going to be, and I'm looking for that website. We have a website that we have our archived radio shows on.
Right. It's our firm website.
It's our firm website that we just completed. And so maybe at the break, I'll make sure that it's running before I give the web address.
Oh, excellent.
So
we can. And you could always email at Pete McDowell at actioncoach.com if you like, or Peg Burley at actioncoach.com.
Or call
614-306-7922.
Perfect.
All right.
Okay, so let's dive in.
Okay, so here we go. So daily habits of exceptional leaders. Now, we talk about this a lot because leadership in most cases is darn near everything. The tournament basketball's over with by now, and a lot of things are happening where it's obvious that the leader can make the difference in darn near everything. And it's true with business, too.
And one thing, we were working with a client right now, and I sat down with some of their young leaders who are now, which is not unusual to bring in a business coach, especially if you have a new manager. A lot of times, you don't have the time to mentor or lead or coach the way you want, and bringing in a coach helps that. And so Pete
you're
and
busy working on other things.
Yes, you're working on the business. And so we were talking to and coaching some young leaders, and one of the things that we were saying is we wanted, as a homework, is look at your team and how are they responding, because they're a reflection of you. So some of the things that they may be doing that you're...
Darn it.
Yes.
Sometimes that's good.
Sometimes it's good. So equally, so for example, if you are asking them to work overtime, yet you don't believe they should be working overtime because you think that we're working too hard and that this isn't really a good idea. Well, guess what? They're going to read that. They're going to read that.
Maybe they're not working fast enough during their regular hours.
Right. And whatever it is you're doing and whatever way you think, they're going to be following you. So we got to get you right. So that's why these things are important, because it affects everyone.
Great.
So go ahead, Pete.
Okay, so number one, if you're writing this down, we'll just start with number one. It's courage. And there's a little quote here from Aristotle. It says, courage is the first virtue that makes all other virtues possible.
I like that.
So courage. So you've got a business that's operating in a global economy. You've got employee challenges. You've got maybe cash flow challenges. You've got to make payroll, all these things. You've got rules you got to keep up with, laws, et cetera. You've got to show that you're courageous in facing all these things. And you always have more things that you're juggling than you can possibly work on in the next hour, right?
Right. And I liked what you said with courage, that sometimes making the decisions quick are important, and it needs to be courageous, because the speed of the business will be the speed of you. And a lot of times when we walk into companies, either it's going too fast and we're making decisions maybe without evaluation.
Okay, hip shooting. Yeah.
But usually, most often, don't you think, Pete, people are moving too slow?
Almost always.
Almost
always they err on not making decisions fast enough.
Exactly.
And if you're just tuning in, this is Business Talk with Peg and Pete, and we're talking about some of our lessons from working with different types of leaders in all kinds of businesses.
And so the first one was courage.
Courage. And we've got an article here, we're just talking through this. People will wait to see if a leader is courageous before they're willing to follow. So they're going to watch and see how you react to situations before they jump on board and say, yeah, let's go for it.
Well, and I want to let you know that, Pete, we did have all of our people working on our website, and any of our shows that have been passed, I'm going to go ahead and give that website out.
Please do.
So it's actioncoach.com/Take Action Business Coaching. And so it's actioncoach.com/Take Action Business Coaching.
Now, could it be a little longer?
Well, you know what? All you have to remember, you remember Action Coach, but remember it's /Take Action Business Coaching. And you'll see some of our archive shows. And what's even more important, you'll see our beautiful faces as a firm.
Oh, yeah, that's right. All four of us there.
Yes,
right?
You'll see it all there. So you'll get to know a little bit more about us.
And look behind us. That's Apple Valley Lake right there.
There it is. Absolutely. Okay. So feel free to go there and look at any archive shows.
All right. So for a courageous leader, adversity is a welcome test. So challenges are a way for you to demonstrate to your team that you can overcome things. So challenges are okay, and they make us what?
Stronger,
right. And sometimes they give you a scar too, but you're stronger when you come through it.
Right.
So it's all good.
Well, you learn more from your mistakes than you do from your successes.
That's true. Yes.
And the person that makes the most mistakes the fastest wins.
There you go. That's a great way to look at it.
Of course, you got to adjust.
Yeah. We're going to go, and we're going to break things along the way occasionally.
And we're going to learn.
We're going to learn. Okay. All right. Okay. So here's the second one now, adherence to the golden rule.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the golden rule.
The way you see people is the way you treat them, and the way you treat them is what they become. Oh. So think about this with your kids. If you're positive and encouraging and helpful with your kids, they start to walk, right? They're a 2-year-old or a 1-year-old, and they're stumbling, right? And you're laughing and you're helping them up and you're cheerful and you help them toddle around and fall down,
right?
And you encourage them to keep trying, right?
So repeat that, because that was really
So the golden rule, the way you see people is the way you treat them, and the way you treat them is what they become. So we want to treat our employees, and I'm thinking of employees now, your leadership's going to be all around you, but one big aspect of it is your employees. You want to assume that they're doing their best, they're trying their best, and they're trying to get done what you want to get done in a positive way. You always have that assumption. You always approach things with that assumption, and then help them learn how to do it in the way that's the most effective for the business.
That goes back to inspiring our team, because you know what? You can't pull people to lead you. They've got to want to follow.
Yes. Right.
And that's what leadership's all about, is they want to follow and they choose to follow you.
Right. And a lot of that is teaching them this is how we treat each other. And they'll do the same.
Again,
right?
It's a mirror. Like we said, your team will be a reflection of you.
Oh.
So how they're treating each other is how you're probably treating them. So when we'll return, we'll continue going through this list, Pete?
Yes, and we'll talk a little bit about the golden rule, how it applies here, and then also our version of that, the platinum rule.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay.
To learn more about today's topic, call 614-306-7922. Now, back to more business talk.
Oh, hello, Pete.
Hello, Peg.
And this is Peg and Pete, or we could say Pete and Peg. That doesn't roll off the
that just doesn't work.
It doesn't.
It's Peg and the other guy, or Peg and Pete.
Yes, with Business Talk, both of us are coaches working with a team of coaches. We have a firm here in Columbus. Right. We work all over the U.S., and we're talking a little bit about leadership today.
The best coaching firm
in the world. That's it.
Period.
And we are the largest in the Midwest.
We are.
Mm-hmm.
So adherence to the golden rule. So we mentioned that, the golden rule. And then, Peg, explain the platinum rule. We all know what the golden rule is. Treat others the way you would like to be treated.
Right.
And
in this case, I liked what they said. They said, say that one sentence again.
The way you see people is the way you treat them, and the way you treat them is what they become or who they become.
I like that. So one platinum rule, what we say is that we want to treat others the way they want to be treated. So it's really important for you as a leader, and again, we're going back to leadership, to truly understand and read people, their temperament, what drives them, what inspires them, why they would want to follow.
Their behavior profile.
Their goals, what's their why.
Personal goals.
What's their why, mm-hmm. What's their development standard, because as a platinum rule, what we say is you will lead them the way they want to be led.
And they're all individuals. So we've got a group of employees who are maybe even in similar jobs, but they're different people. They have different family needs. They have different educational backgrounds. They have had different parenting when they grew up.
Right.
And they have different behavior profiles, which we cover in other shows. If you want to look on the website, you can find the DISC profile or behavior profile.
And what's our
show.
website, Pete?
It is actioncoach.com/Take Action Business Coaching.
There we go. And you'll see some of our archive shows on there, or other shows, including this one. Right. This will be on there, so if you miss anything, you can always go back. Or you can call us at
614-306-7922.
Okay.
And again, great leaders. We talked about this idea of leadership within the business is you've got to be able to adjust your management style depending on who you're working with and what development level and their behavior characteristics. The individual person, you've got to adjust a little bit.
Right.
And we all know this after working with people, but sometimes new leaders, newly promoted younger leaders, like I was years ago, you don't learn that. You learn it by trial and error.
And you wonder about the value. One time we were talking about the investment of a coach and what is our return on investment? And if you think about it, let's just use one example. So you have a young leader who isn't doing the platinum rule and they aren't treating somebody the way they want to be treated, and this person needs a different temperament. Well, if you approach that situation wrong, you have shut down that person.
Yeah, so if you have a supervisor who's very blunt with everyone, and you've got someone who's doesn't take things that way, they're kind and gentle and they need softer words.
So when you go to that person and you talk to them and you do it wrong, then you shut them down. And if you shut them down, that means that amount of money you're paying them is at zero. So imagine it's like a machine that you just turned off.
Well, and sometimes people leave, right?
Well, exactly. So there's not only obviously the retention rate being critical to good people.
Because
absolutely.
It's so costly.
Exactly.
to train someone.
In some cases, it could be $100,000 to replace a person.
And we've mentioned this before. The economy is doing pretty well. Not gangbusters, but it's steady growth. And we have challenges finding great people quickly.
So we need to keep those. We need great managers and great leaders keeping the people. And then again, when they're there, are they at optimum level? Are they producing for you? Because generally labor is going to be your highest expense depending on your product. So what are we doing and what are the investments we're putting into our labor? And that's the return on investment for coaching. And that's why you have a coach. And that's why it's important for you to listen to these shows and invest in books and learnings and teaching new managers.
So learning things is great, and then you have to go apply it.
Yes,
right?
Exactly.
You've got this little laboratory called your business that you can go test things in.
And that's what coaching's about.
Right?
Coaching is about making sure they apply it. It's not just, I've read something. It's, okay, so what have you done?
Yeah, and typically, mention that, Peg, is what happens during a coaching session is you find an opportunity or a problem, either one, and you determine that, hey, we really need to work on this. We need to make progress in one of these areas, either make something that's really good even better or fix something. And then what we do is talk with the employee, manager, leader, business owner, and figure out, well, what are the different options I might have to fix this or make this better?
Right.
And then pick one or two and then go execute.
Love it. That's
it.
And
the coach leaves.
And that's it. And guess what? Great things happen.
Yep.
Great
and we come
things
back
happen.
and say, okay, how did that go? And then sometimes they say, well, I didn't do it.
And then that's not a good thing.
Okay. But that usually doesn't happen.
No.
Okay, so the next rule, now we talked about courage, we talked about the golden rule, and then we added the platinum rule onto that. And then the next one is self-awareness. And here's a quote. It's an old Latin quote, not attributed to any one person. It's absurd that a man should rule others who cannot rule himself or herself.
Oh, I love that.
So if you don't have control of you, right, how are you going to control anybody else?
It's very important. And again, going back to our mirror and the reflection that the team reflects the leader. So if you're out of control, then guess what? They're out of control. And what do we say? Pete, this is a good question. So we have a leader that we say, that you and I are saying is out of control. What would that mean? What would we see if we see somebody out of control?
Oh, how could it show itself?
Yes.
Well, and I'm thinking of this, the book that comes to mind here is Travis Bradbury's The Emotional Intelligence book. In the beginning of that book, he describes, well, why do you want to read this book in the first place? Well, generally, people make better decisions when they use logic rather than emotion. So if you have a boss, manager, leader who gets angry when something goes wrong, and things do go wrong during the workday, they do. Mm-hmm. If somebody gets really angry and flies off the handle, that doesn't help anybody, including that person.
No, because what you've done is you shut down people.
Example.
And we shut down. Keep in mind, your people are machines. I'm just using that as a metaphor, not necessarily that they are. I don't mean to be saying that. It's just, are you oiling that machine with the right oil? Are you making sure that your approach is good so that we're getting optimum results? And when you start screaming at people, generally, a shutdown will occur.
Well, and what happens, and most of us have seen this in the workplace, whether we're coaches or in a workplace working, is that you see when somebody gets really angry after hearing a piece of news, well, I'll make sure I don't tell them that news anymore. So people stop telling them things.
That's a good point.
Or they don't want to speak up.
Right.
If they disagree, they may keep it quiet, even though they know we're driving the bus off the cliff.
And so if we go back to your point of self-awareness, the point of, and again, we should just revisit if somebody's just joined us, that what we're going through we're talking about leadership as a whole, correct?
Right.
And so the topic of this is?
Some characteristics, things that great leaders do as a habit.
So going back to the self-awareness to avoid making sure that we don't do some things that aren't acceptable in the workplace.
Well, I'm thinking about this as well because have been some employees that I've had in the past that have been kind enough to come and talk to me privately when I've made a mistake or I hadn't handled a situation in a good way. And they said, hey, you really ought to know this. This is what I saw, and this is the result of what you did or didn't do. And, you could do better. And it's really helpful.
And if you have your team, Pete, like you did, coming to you, I want to applaud that. As I'll give you a star on your forehead, metaphorically. You're getting a star because that means they trust you enough to tell you, and you have listened, and you've earned that. Now, if they're not, the opposite occurs, then we need to sit down and talk.
Well, then you got to spiral, and you're going to go it goes downward.
And one thing we do is I just said do, and whenever you say that, whenever you do, you can call us and for a quick conversation on the phone. Well, let's give your number again, Pete. It's
614-306-7922, and this is Pete and Peg with Business Talk.
Yes. So you can always, as we're going through this, and you have a question about your team or you want to talk in general, give us a call, whether you have a new manager that you think that would benefit or even yourself as far as a business coach or a leader.
And give the boss a break. Contrary to what I'm quoting here, contrary to what Dilbert might have us believe, leaders' gaps in self-awareness are rarely due to deceitful Machiavellian motives or severe character deficits. Most of the time, people view themselves in a more favorable light than other people do. And it's a foundation, self-awareness is a foundation of emotional intelligence. So we've mentioned that book a couple of times, Emotional Intelligence 2.0, but it's something that almost all top performers have, high emotional intelligence. So when can you tell when the people around you are getting upset or tired or bored or whatever you think it is. But being able to pick up on that is really key.
And during stressful times, too.
Great leaders have high emotional self-awareness.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good. All right. Okay. We ready for the next one?
We are.
Okay.
And the next one is passion.
Okay.
So enthusiasm for what you're doing. Think about it. All the great, I'm thinking of sports figures. They're really intense about what they're doing. The really good ones are really intense about it.
Well, and think about doctors, too. If you go to a doctor, and I say that because it's your life, and it really, at that point, do you want to go with a person that just says, well, I guess I could do this? Or do you want to be with a passionate person who's really up on the latest trends and understands all the to save your life?
Yeah.
We need to approach our business like that. This is our life.
No, that's good.
And
that's
we
good.
need to be passionate.
I'm giggling. I'm thinking of Ben, my son Ben. He plays rugby, and he's a radiologist.
Yes.
But when he's on the rugby field, you can see how he does his work at work. He goes really fast at work and gets things done quickly. He's reviewing images and writing a report and sending it off, and he gets another one. And, he likes it because to him it's kind of competitive. But on the rugby field, he's all in.
Well, which brings you up
Very intense.
When you're hiring someone or looking, remember the way you do anything is the way you do everything.
Yeah.
So in Ben's case, he's aggressive on the field as he will be in life. And so I always like, as we're interviewing people as a rule of thumb, and let's say they did play a sport, talk about that sport. Talk about some of that, go to that, because they're going to speak to that because it's their passion, they're excited in their comfort zone.
You're going to learn a ton about them by getting them to talk about what they really love.
What did they love about the game? Yes. Yeah. What did they love about the game?
Yeah.
What were your challenges? How did you approach them? And just talk about their college or their high school even experience, because you're not going to change too much there. And that will show you how they're going to play the game of business.
Great. Good suggestion. So here's a quote from Mark Zuckerberg. If you just work on stuff that you like and are passionate about, you don't have to have a plan about how things will play out. So we need to get people in a spot in the business where they're doing what they really love. And passion and enthusiasm are contagious.
I like that. So when we return, we're going to continue through our list of I guess, behaviors.
Habits of great leaders.
Great leaders.
Things that people do as a habit that excel in what they do. And, we do have a 90-day planning session, a growth club, we call it, 90-day planning session on June 16th from 8 to 3:30. It's a 90-day planning session. We'd like to invite someone. If you'd like to call and get a couple tickets for this, you can call 614-306-7922. And what you'll end up at the end of this day is you'll have a written plan that you'll have created for your own business for the third quarter.
And it's 614-306-7922.
Could your business use some help? Call 614-306-7922 to schedule your coaching session. 614-306-7922. Now, here's more business talk.
We're talking about leadership today. And again, we have a 90-day planning session on June 16th, and it's all day. And you could give us a call if you'd like to attend. It's 614-306-7922.
Well, and we say all day, it means we want you there around 8 o'clock.
8 to 3:30.
And then we'll finish up around 3:30. Right. Absolutely. And we'll have about 45 people in the room. I mean, It is an inspiring, exciting event.
You'll learn from our coaches, but you'll also learn from the other business owners.
It's wonderful. Room. Yes, we have lots of businesses.
And we do have a couple of topics that may be of interest. We always include a pure training topic in the morning as part of the 90-day planning process, just to make sure we're keeping our business owners moving forward on thinking about their business. And one of the topics is succession planning and how to move on that. And then also we're going to do a part 1 of our reading our financials.
There we go. And
which is exciting.
It's exciting, and a lot of people like to avoid it. So that's why we're doing part 1 and part 2, because we're going to get, we'll keep it fairly short, and then we'll get into the 90-day plan.
Right.
So Pete and I have been reviewing habits for leaders, and how is it that we need to improve as leaders to get to, what habits should we have? Now, we've already reviewed 4, right? Okay. So what's our 5th one?
Yeah, so the 5th one, you'll like this one. It's humility. I
do like that one. I like that. Now,
so my brother told me once, my older brother, Michael, hi, Michael, and all the ships at sea, hello, is conceit is a fault, and I don't have any faults. So that's the opposite of humility.
Yes. So,
he was kind of kidding. But so humility, this is a quote from C.S. Lewis and Claire Lewis, I believe. Humility is not thinking of yourself, less of yourself. It's thinking of yourself less.
Oh, I like that. Say that again. Cool? Say that again.
Humility is not thinking less of yourself. It's thinking of yourself less.
And guess who we're thinking about then?
Everybody else.
Exactly. It's amazing how often when we're in a situation, we go and reflect on, we ask the questions about me. What did I do wrong? How is that my fault?
Yeah.
We all do it. Instead of saying, okay, so what about that person? Let's take that.
I mean, I'm thinking back, and some of my days in the factory were not fun, but most of the time it was. And one of the things I really enjoyed was going out into the plant without a purpose, right? Not having an agenda, but just saying, I'm going to go out and spend some time.
Well, take this note, leaders, because you need to be doing this without a purpose.
Without a purpose, and you're going to go out and talk to folks and finding, holy cow, something happened that probably wasn't good for the company or the employees or whatever, that you could actually help someone fix. And boy, did they love it when you get something fixed that is bugging them. It doesn't matter what it is.
That's how you inspire.
A lot of times it's small.
Mm-hmm. That's how you inspire. That's when people will want to follow you, because you're developing others and you have a caring about them.
So here's a little more on this topic of humility. Great leaders are humble. They don't allow their position of authority to make them feel that they're better than anyone else. As such, they don't hesitate to jump in and do the dirty work when needed, and they won't ask their followers to do anything they wouldn't be willing to do themselves.
That's important. Yeah. That's just a rule of thumb. And again, I'm going back to, I keep saying this, it's the mirror. They will mirror you in your behavior and in your work, and they should. Now, if they're not, that's a conversation. If they want to not work as hard. One thing we had a conversation with, Pete, just with one of my clients the other day, is when you and I were there, they talked about having a problem with the team was there's so much work in, and this is happening to a lot of our companies. They're getting inundated with work because it's a good economy. Right. I mean, and obviously they're growing, and if you have a coach, you're going to be growing double digits.
Most of our clients are growing 10 to 25%.
At least, some 100. And so one of the things that they said is, well, I don't want to work that hard. And, what about balance? Balance in life is important. Mm-hmm. And one thing we talked about as the leaders, I said, balance is this thought that we have to be balanced at all times. So if you look at a time frame, you're like, well, I need to be balanced with every week and every day. Well, not really. If you look at your lifetime, balance is about your lifetime,
right?
Not necessarily this moment. So if you're young, think about this. You're going to go to school and you're going to work really hard and you're going to learn. And when you start a new company, you're going to do the same thing. And you may be working 70, 80 hours, and that is okay. That is not your moment for balance.
Right. Or one of your clients needs something from you by a certain date. We just had this in the last few weeks where there's several employees working on a big project for a client, and it has to be done by a certain date. And you got to jump in and get it done.
Because that's not the moment for balance. And that's a really important thing for people to hear is especially as you're young, you're learning, you're growing, not only personally, but professionally, skill-wise. And it's going to take more time. So we want you to devote that time. And then as you get older, you've earned the right to maybe have a little bit more balance. But balance doesn't have to be every moment.
Oh, man.
Every week.
My snowflake is melting. Oh. Okay, so that was humility, right?
Yes, humility.
So the next one, and we're reviewing habits of great leaders, just things that they weave right into themselves and do every day. Generosity.
Oh, isn't that the truth?
So this is a John Maxwell quote. quote, "A good leader is a person who takes a little more than his share of the blame and a little less than his share of the credit."
That is wonderful. I love that.
Hey, I'm sorry if you misunderstood me. Or, hey, I'm sorry if I wasn't clear with you. I apologize if I got this to you too late. And I need your help here.
I want to hear that because that is truly a great leader. And one thing, it was interesting. One thing, I was with a manager, Pete and I were working with this company, and we looked around the room and we said, look back as a leader. This is maybe a homework, a question to ask yourself. Look back as a leader and look at all of your direct reports that you had working for you. How many of those people have grown to new heights, new positions? Some of them even past you.
Right. And how cool is that?
And how cool is that? Because really, as a leader, developing others and your ability to get them where they want to go, that's your job.
Right. Right. And you're as committed to their success as you are to your own.
Exactly.
And once they sense that, they're going to sense it whether you say it or not. So if you really believe that in your heart, it's going to show. You're going to act that way, and then they're going to bust their butt to help.
Right. And so that habit, what was the habit again called?
Generosity.
Generosity.
And you notice we didn't even talk about money. We're talking about your time and attention and your
that's exactly
your help. And money's one thing, but this is about really being invested in your employee's success.
I'm glad you said we didn't talk about money because most people, now keep in mind you need to pay them fair.
Well, yeah.
We need to keep it fair according to market value. And what we say when we come in, we want you to pay more than the market.
Yeah, we generally, if you look at a bell curve, we're encouraging our clients to be over the top, over the midpoint, above where they think they should pay, depending on their metro area. Depends on where you live, of course, but we want you to be paying a little higher and expecting a little more.
That's exactly it.
Yep.
When you give more, exactly. And so we take money off the table. It's never about money. It's about all the others.
Great.
Okay, so we're ready to move on to the next habit.
Yes, the next one of habit is infectiousness.
Okay. Now tell me a little bit about what that is.
I'm thinking of Typhoid Mary. Now, she met this category. Here's a Reverend Theodore Hesburgh. Excuse me if I mispronounced your name. The very essence of leadership is that you have a vision. It's got to be a vision you articulate clearly and forcefully at every opportunity. You can't blow an uncertain trumpet.
I like that.
So you got to be sure of it, and you have to tell people about it. It's important to have a vision, but it's as important to communicate it to everybody, all the time.
Okay, so here's your homework, Pete. Not you, Pete, but I mean everybody listening.
I'm ready.
And again, this is Peg and Pete, and we're business coaches. And part of business coaching is teaching a concept, which is what we're doing here, making sure you can apply it, which we want you to do, and then we follow up with it, making sure it's implemented.
Right.
So here's the homework of the application. So what did we just say the habit was, to go back to it?
This habit is infectiousness.
Okay,
so getting clarity or communicating that vision to everybody.
So the infection is the vision. We want you to go in and we want you to, and maybe it's not you, maybe it's your assistant. I don't know. It all depends. We want you to have somebody go around and randomly pick 5 or 6 people. Just put them on the shoulder. Say, hey, I want to ask you, what is our vision? And see the consistency of the message. Because it should be the same message.
Do you think it's going to be?
No. Most often, don't get frustrated when it's not the same. And it's just because we get busy and we execute, and we forget to tell them where we're going because we're
taking this ship.
We're so far trying to execute. So if that's the case, then you're going to call Peg and Pete at 614-306-7922. We're going to come in and we're going to help you with this. It's called a team alignment day. We need to get the team together. And we do this all the time. And we need to communicate this and we need to do it moving forward. And so we want you to do that exercise and see what happens.
You got to make it come alive. The vision's got to come alive so that they can see it just clearly as you do.
So when
That's
you ask
part
them,
of your job.
It's no brainer. Of course, I'm going to know, and I'm going to be excited about it because when we get there, guess what happens? We all get to share.
There you go.
I love it.
So when we get back, we're going to talk about more of these. We have 4 left, and the next one is authenticity.
Oh,
yes.
What's authenticity?
And I'll give you the quote.
Yes.
This is from Hubert Humphrey, who has passed away. Just be who you are and speak from your guts and your heart. It's all a person has. That's all you've got.
I like that. So when we get back, we'll cover authenticity a bit, and then we have 3 more habits to go through. Oh, that is wonderful. Mm-hmm. Yep. And then again, if you are interested in the 90-day plan, you can call Pete
614-306-7922, and that's on June 16th. It's a Friday. It's always a Friday, and it's oddly enough, it's every quarter, 8 to 3:30 in the afternoon. It's in Grandview, and we'd love to have you as our guest. If you give us a call, we will get you a couple tickets, and we'll see you there on June 16th.
To learn more about today's topic, call 614-306-7922. Now, back to more business talk.
We'll mention that website again for looking at or listening to our past shows, and it's actioncoach.com/Take Action Business Coaching. And it's a website with various radio shows on a variety of topics from Peg and I and Michelle and Angie, all four of us, different groups of us at a time.
Yeah, so we own a firm. Pete and I own a firm here locally in Columbus, and Michelle and Angie are part of our firm. And we help businesses not just in Columbus, but all over the U.S.
All over the country, yeah. And we're actually talking to somebody out of the country right at the moment.
Yes, in New Zealand.
Yes,
absolutely.
You may have to go there for a month and check it out.
Absolutely. Okay, so right. Pete and I are reviewing the habits of leaders.
Right.
And right before the break, we talked about authenticity.
Yes, authenticity. Okay. And authenticity refers to being honest in all things, not just what you say and do, but who you are. So in other words, whatever you say, do, the actions you take, it's got to be congruent with who you are and where you really want the business to go. And people will see it if it's not.
And, when you really have a chance to show your authenticity, I mean, there's so many opportunities, but one would be look at how you're conducting your meetings and being able to speak from the heart. And that goes to the habit ahead of time about your vision as well, is are you speaking to your vision of where we're going with authenticity and excitement so that they get inspired to follow? And are you listening to them? And are you driving them and helping them follow you and just being yourself? And those times at those meetings, and depending on how big your company is, those meetings are just maybe quarterly. If you have a couple hundred people, I mean, obviously, if you have maybe 10 to 20 people, you're going to see them more often. But just take a look in the mirror and how you're conducting your meetings.
Awesome.
And come up with that.
Okay.
Now,
our next habit of exceptional leaders here is approachability. And Tommy Lasorda was a great manager last for the Dodgers in L.A.
I've heard of him.
This is an interesting quote from him. Management's like holding a dove in your hand. Squeeze too hard and you kill it. Not hard enough and it flies away. Well, I thought, if you squeeze too hard, it might also do something in your hand.
Yes, it's true. Little truth to that.
Yeah, so you've got to have some control, but obviously you don't want to have too much.
And that's approachability?
Approachability. So, great leaders make it clear that they welcome challenges, criticism, and other viewpoints, even if they're not the same as their own.
So earlier in the show, we talked a little bit about if somebody is having an issue, are they coming directly to you? And of course,
do you hear about it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because that's whether you're approachable or not. And like to your point, Pete, you mentioned if you responded pretty harshly and weren't self-aware and you yelled, let's say, or screamed, or what you've done is trained them to not come to you.
Not angry right away. Yeah, right.
And if you started blaming them and going off, who's going to want to come up to you like that?
Great leaders facilitate the flow of great ideas throughout the organization. So we want people talking to each other.
Right. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Great. So the next one, this is a great one, accountability. And Michael Armstrong, I'm not even sure who that is. He said the ancient Romans had a tradition. Whenever one of their engineers constructed an arch, as the capstone was hoisted in place, the engineer assumed accountability for his work in the most profound way possible.
Oh, my gosh.
He stood under the arch.
I saw that coming. Oh, my gosh. That is truly.
And, man, they were tough back then. If it fell down,
you were done.
Yeah.
That's truly accountable.
Yeah. Well, anybody's going to go. It's me.
And Pete and I, as we were talking, as we prepare for the radio shows, we always talk about, what do you think would be a good topic? And the way we pick our topics are based on what we're hearing from our team,
right.
Our team.
Right.
And our clients, and saying this is what the issue is. And one thing we hear a lot about is accountability. And one step we see often is that you're trying to hold people accountable to expectations you haven't been clear on. That is a mistake that we see often. Well, they should be doing this and they should be doing that. Well, have you sat down and clearly expressed your expectations and how to do it and how to do it in order for them to be held accountable?
Do they have a job description? Do they have goals? do you have key performance indicators to know whether they're succeeding or not?
That is so true. And just like the guy who stood under the arch, I'm sure he did that because he has been trained.
Or he had a sword at his back.
Yes, either one. Or
just kidding there, Roman.
But just think about that with the accountability, because accountability seems to be a buzzword that us as leaders and managers use, but sometimes we see that it's missing a few steps before that moment.
Well, and it goes both ways, right?
Right.
So if the boss has a problem with an employee, they are accountable for the results of that employee, and they're also accountable for the hiring, the development of the job description, the development of the goals, the development of the person, how the person was trained. How often do you talk to this employee as well?
Exactly.
And, so making sure great leaders have their followers' backs. They don't try to shift blame. Hey, I'm sorry, I never showed you that. Whoops. Let me show you how to do that in the best possible way.
I like it. I like it. Okay, so which ones have we? Let's just revisit the habits already from the beginning to the end. Let's just go through and see what we visited.
Daily habits of exceptional leaders. Number 1 was courage.
Okay, I remember that.
Number 2 is adherence to the golden rule plus the platinum rule, which is treating others as they want to be treated. Number 3 was self-awareness.
Got it.
Number 4 is passion, showing it. Number 5 is humility, not thinking less of yourself, but thinking of yourself less.
Got it.
Number 6 is generosity. Number 7 is infectiousness, not in the medical sense.
Yes.
Authenticity, approachability, accountability.
Well, we've gone through a lot of habits.
We got one more.
Oh, that's it. I love it. Okay, what's the last one?
It's a sense of purpose. And Ken Casey, I'm trying to think of the book that he wrote. Anyway, it'll come to me. You don't lead by pointing and telling people someplace to go. You lead by going to that place and making a case to everybody.
Oh, isn't that? I love that. I just had this conversation last week, and actually it was Friday, with an individual and said, how fast are you going? And they're going pretty darn fast. They're a doctor, and they had this new idea and this new care that they wanted to give.
Okay.
And it was for a veterinarian practice. And so they decided, they're just announcing it to the clinic that this is what we're going to do. It's going to be a fear-free hold, and this is how you're going to hold, and we're going to do it. Well, I want to tell you what happened. So she had this wonderful idea, and I say that meaning it is a wonderful idea.
The idea itself was great.
It's a wonderful idea. And she's a very direct kind of doer, great kind of achiever.
Action person.
She went out and said, this is what we're doing to our team. Well, guess what happened? She was met with enormous resistance. And then when they weren't doing it correctly, she was like, no. And then they became fearful of her because I'm not going to get it done correctly. So now all of a sudden,
I won't do it.
I'm not going to. Then they were afraid of doing it. They were afraid every time she was around. And here's a person that, honestly, she's a really a good leader, but she got so inspired with this one idea that she just went right at him. And so I said, you know what happened to you is you and your team were starting at a race, and you happened to be really in good shape. So you sprinted out, and you were at mile 3, and then you were yelling at them, get up here, run faster. I go, but they are still at the finish line. They don't even know how to run. They don't know the proper technique. They don't even know the reason why they should finish. What is the point? So part of leadership, as in this habit, it's the understanding and the self-awareness to go back to the starting line and walk hand in hand with them and bringing them around and getting them up to your speed.
And help them understand why. Why are we doing this in the first place? What's the purpose?
So do you want to? Yeah, exactly. So you want to hear what happened?
Yeah.
So here was this team who was really getting frustrated. They were starting to act out. And when they get frustrated and angry about one thing, it involves others and it grows. So
and they're all in a very close proximity to each other. So if a couple of people are upset, everybody knows about it, and pretty soon everybody's upset.
That's exactly what happened. It became, Pete, exactly. It became very infectious. Everybody's like, oh my gosh, isn't she awful? And then it's like, well, then she does this and this. And it became this whole lynch mob going after this one individual who honest to goodness, a month ago, she was fine. And it was all over this one issue.
I'll get the rope, you get the horse.
Exactly. I said, oh my gosh, the torches are coming out. We're all in trouble. So what we ended up doing is she went and she apologized to the team. Now, she couldn't do it all as one, only because time didn't permit and the scheduling, because they work different schedules. So she did it, some of them in a group and some of them individually. And she said, you know what? I failed to ask your opinion. I failed to ask, is this the right thing? I failed to train you. I failed to tell you the vision. And they all forgave her. Then she created a training of why.
Yeah.
So she's got a curriculum of why would we change this process. And then she's going to go ahead and ask them to create the process in which we make this happen so that it's them doing it.
Great. So sometimes, and this happens with a lot of our traits, I'm thinking about myself, sometimes you can have a trait that in some ways it's good, in some ways it can hurt you.
That's it.
You can have your passion be so strong about an idea, you jump into it and go so fast that you forget about your humility, right?
Right.
And it overwhelms people.
It overwhelms people. And then what was that last habit? It was you're going to bring them with you.
Oh, yeah, right. It's about having a sense of purpose.
Right. And bringing them with you and not just dragging them along.
Yeah. Make sure that the people that you're working with can see the vision as clearly as you do. And they didn't in the beginning.
No.
Maybe they do now, but.
Good. No, they all do now. I just, in fact, talked to them and it's all good. So it's a happy ending for that one. And she'll never do that again. She understands now what it means to be a leader and how to inspire and have people want to follow. So
but she did a great
ending.
job at being humble enough to say, hey, I made a mistake and I apologize and we're going to start over. And so it's a great lesson.
She gained the respect of her team, and it's what we do. It's wonderful. So it was just a really good end to the story.
That's fantastic. And that most likely her relationships with everybody are even better than they were before the thing happened in the first place.
Exactly. So that was probably a really good story of how it ended up with all the habits that we just went through for leadership.
Super.
I mean, all those habits.
So if you like what you hear and you want to hear more of these shows, we have a website, and it's our coaching firm website, and it's actioncoach.com/takeactionbusinesscoaching, and you can listen to past shows, and they're sorted by topic. And also, we have a Growth Club coming up on June 16th in Grandview.
And a Growth Club is a 90-day plan.
It's a 90-day planning session. So at the end of that session, you will have a plan that you created with some help from others, and you'll have a written plan for the third quarter of the year.
I like that.
And we'd like to have our business owners look ahead a year or so and figure out where they really want to be, and then break it into quarters and have a written plan for every single quarter.
So thank you for listening today. It was a pleasure to be a part of your day.
This has been Business Talk, your business, your success, sponsored by Take Action Business Coaching. The opinions expressed were those of the participants and may not be the views of the staff, advertisers, and owners of the station. Advice given was not intended to replace that of your business advisor. For more information about the topics discussed today, call 614-306-7922. 614-306-7922. Tune in next week at this time for more Business Talk, your business, your success.